everyone, welcome back to Pets Palace Kids. Today's video is going to be all about the cost of guinea pigs, rabbits, gerbils and hamsters. It's a very popular time of year for people to be looking into getting some small animals, especially as the weather's getting warmer. It is quite a common time for people to be going out and getting some small animals. So I thought this would be the perfect time to make this video so you can understand which pet will be the best for what you can afford and what is your budget. So I hope you find this video helpful. We'll start off with guinea pigs. Guinea pigs are quite expensive animals and they can live up to 8 years old, maybe even a bit longer, so that's a long time to be paying for them and it is a lot of responsibility. So the good news is guinea pigs don't need vaccinations, so you don't have to worry about that. But the biggest cost is probably going to be coming from all the ongoing supplies, and this includes things like food and bedding and everything like that, which you're going to have to keep buying over and over again, so you don't just buy it once like the cage. We'll start off with the cage though. So the cage, although it might seem quite expensive to begin with, it's important that you make a good investment, which means putting your money towards something which is going to be ideal. And this is so important because you may buy a small pet shop cage and realise in a few months' time that it's too small and they've outgrown it. So it's a really good idea to do your research beforehand. Make sure for a pair of guinea pigs, and that's what we're going to be working out these costs based on. So if you have 2 guinea pigs, they're going to need a cage which is 120 by 60 centimetres. Might sound quite big, but that's what they need as a minimum, and bigger would even be better. So the cages will range from about £40 for the lower budget to about up to £150. So there is a big range depending where you get the cage from, how much you're willing to put towards it. They can even cost more if you're looking for a nice outdoor building such as a shed or a playhouse, and it's going to cost more if you have more guinea pigs. But let's say you just have 2 guinea pigs, you're wanting a cage which is just meeting the minimum size, which I would advise you go a little bit bigger, but let's just say you're going for the minimum size. That's going to cost you maybe about £80 on average. It really depends where you get the cage from. So then we're talking about bedding. Bedding is something you're going to have to keep buying over and over again. There are some good options such as fleece, because you can keep washing and reusing fleece. It's a lot better value. But if you are going to be using a bedding such as hemp litter, for example, you're going to have to keep buying this over and over again, and they're going to need cleaning out on a regular basis. So fleece is a great option, but you still got to pay for the washing liquid, and if you have litter trays, you're still going to be going through bedding. So let's say you go for a standard bale of hemp or megazorb or another safe small animal bedding. That will cost you between £5 to £10 every time you buy this. Now of course they're going to need hay, and they always need hay in their diet. It's really important. You can also get really big bales of hay for about £5 each, which isn't bad at all. Again, you're going to only need to buy another one of these every few months. Fresh fruits and vegetables are going to be quite expensive. They don't need much in the way of fruit, but vegetables especially is a really important part of their diet. So unfortunately fresh fruits and vegetables are expensive to buy, and especially as you'll need to buy these every week, they're going to go through a lot of this. It is going to be quite expensive, so that's something to really think about before you get your guinea pigs, because you're going to have to spend quite a lot of money on fresh food. Now you don't need to buy pellets, in my opinion. You don't really need that for your guinea pig's diet. If they're getting plenty of fresh food and everything else is really nice and balanced in their diet, then they don't need any pellets, so that's going to save you money. But of course they're going to need plenty of fresh food in order for you to not have to buy the pellets, so it's going to be quite expensive. So once you've got all these things, you may want to also buy some nice cage accessories such as tunnels, little hidey houses and things like that. And these can be very cheap. You can just use things like cardboard boxes or anything, something simple like that. You can watch my last video for some inspiration for homemade pet toys. That should give you some good ideas. Now let's talk about rabbits. Rabbits are actually quite expensive animals to own because they need so much space. We'll start off with the cage though. So to get a really good quality rabbit cage, for example a playhouse or a shed, you'll be looking about a few £100, maybe up to £500 for something really good quality. So this isn't very cheap and they are going to cost you quite a lot of money, but it's important that you do put the money towards something which is going to be long lasting and something which is going to give them plenty of space, because they're really active animals, and unfortunately the cages sold in the pet shops just don't give them enough space and freedom. You can have rabbits inside your house and this is probably going to cost you a lot less money. If you want house rabbits, then that is probably not going to cost you anything at all because you don't need to buy them a cage, but you could just use a smaller pet shop cage to put them in if you are doing jobs and you want them out of the way for a short amount of time. But remember, rabbits need a lot of space, so make sure that you can provide that for them before getting them. They are quite similar to guinea pigs in terms of the cost of bedding and hay and fresh food. It is very similar. It also depends on the size of the rabbit. If you have a big rabbit, they're going to eat a lot more. If you have a small rabbit, then that's not going to cost quite as much because they don't need to eat as much. So it really depends on the size of the rabbit that you're getting. There is one difference though. Rabbits do need vaccinations each year, so this is going to be costing quite a lot of money and you need to make sure that you can afford this. The cost of neutering is also really expensive, so you want to bear this in mind if the rabbits are not already neutered before you get them, because that can be expensive, along with the vaccinations and potential vet bills if they get poorly. Now we'll talk about gerbils. Unfortunately, gerbil cages are not really available in the pet shops. There are some gerbilariums, but these are generally too small, unfortunately. So a better option would be something like an old fish tank. You could find them on a second-hand website such as eBay or Amazon. Remember, look for something which is around 100 by 50 centimetres at least. Bigger is going to be better. So you could get something quite cheaper for if you have a low budget, such as the IKEA Detolf. That's going to cost you about £40. But then if you're wanting something bigger like the Living World Habitat, this could cost you over £100. But I recommend looking on second-hand websites for old fish tanks that people have, because that could save you quite a lot of money and it will be a great habitat for gerbils. Gerbils also need plenty of bedding. They love to dig, so you need to give them quite a deep layer of bedding. That can be quite expensive if you put a lot of bedding in their habitat, but they don't need cleaning out very often if they have a large enough home, so it's not going to cost you that much. And as I said earlier, if you buy in bulk, if you get the big bales, that's going to save you so much money and it'll be so much better. So I do recommend buying in bulk if you can. Some other things you need to buy include chinchilla sand. This is great for keeping their coat in a good condition. It's not too expensive and you don't need to buy it very often. So also things like food. I personally really recommend making your own gerbil food mixes. It's so simple and I have some recipes. I will link them in the description if you want to find out how you can do that too. So buying the actual ingredients can be a little pricey, but they do last quite a long time, and again, if you're buying quite a lot at one time, it's going to keep you going for a while. They also need a good wheel, which is about 11 inches or so. That could cost you maybe over £10 or something, and other interesting accessories to go in their cage. That's really important to keep them happy and healthy. You can simply just use kitchen roll tubes, cardboard boxes. They're going to give them hours of fun and they're free, which is a great bonus. Finally, we'll talk about hamsters. The good news is that there are a lot of hamster cages available online which are really great. And you want to look for the minimum dimensions of 100 by 50 centimetres. That is the minimum space that they need, and there are quite a lot of cages available which do fit these dimensions, so that is great. And you'll be looking from about £40 as a minimum, like the IKEA Detolf, the Zoo Zone 2 cage and others like that, the Alexander small pet cage. And then at the higher end you'll be looking at the Living World habitat, possibly tanks if you want to give your hamster a lot of bedding, and there are so many options. Hamsters actually don't need as much bedding as gerbils, but some of them do really like to dig, so you may need to offer that as well. And they don't need cleaning out very often, maybe about once a month or so if they have a large habitat. So the bedding is not going to cost you that much money. And everything else is quite similar along with the gerbil, including the food. I really recommend you make your own hamster food. They're so much healthier than the ones you buy in the pet shops, and they're going to be a lot better for your hamster, and they're going to really do much better off a homemade mix. So there we go, we have rabbits and guinea pigs, which are going to be quite a lot more expensive to take care of, especially as they live a lot longer. Rabbits can live up to 12 years, maybe even longer, guinea pigs up to about 8 years, and you never know, they could live longer than this. So that's a long time to care for them. Whereas gerbils and hamsters tend to live up to about 4 years. It really depends on the species of hamster as well, but they can live about up to 4 years, maybe 2 to 3 years is more common, but it really depends. When it comes to owning any small animal, you've got to consider vet bills. Vet bills is what's going to cost you the most money, and this is going to cost money for medication and treatment, and if you're just going for regular vet trips, that will be expensive too. So you've got to really think about the vet trips. That's going to be really expensive, and you have to make sure that you can afford this, because it's important that they get veterinary care if they need that. I think looking at the cost of the animal that you're going to get is really important. Make sure that you can keep up the ongoing supplies, because they are really expensive when you look at it over a few years, and it does add up. So make sure you bear this in mind, and don't let this get you down. Animals are great, they're such rewarding things to own, and I think it's great that you get responsibility looking after your own small pet, and it is such a great thing. But you have to think of it in a sensible way and ask yourself if you're going to be able to afford this. And obviously if you're a child watching this video, then you're going to need some help from your parents, because it's going to cost you a lot of money to pay for all of this yourself. So be sure to have a good chat with your parents about it. Make sure that they're happy with this as well. They're happy to support you with this hobby. So I hope you found this video helpful. Let me know if you have any questions, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye!